Hello, everyone, and welcome to BeMore 2024. I see we have a lot of people already joining the session, and I'm really excited to hand off the mic today to Joe Cahill, one of our longtime ADPList mentors, and someone who I've had the pleasure of meeting many times in New York now, and I love him. You're going to love him. So without further ado, passing it off to Joe.
Yeah, thank you so much. Catherine's one of my favorite people here at ADPList. Just an absolute ray of sunshine. We did a in-person event on last month. I don't remember. But just she walked in and just radiates energy, and it's so great. And that's the beauty of what Felix was saying in the keynote. This is about community. This is about us. And you're here, and we're gonna have a shit ton of fun, and you get to spend time with me to start it off. So there's nothing worse than following the keynote, but we'll see what goes on. So we're going to be talking about some great stuff today. I'm going to be sharing my screen. Uh-oh. Okay, we should be good. Technology is always going to keep us on our toes. So, uh-oh, I got to restart, Catherine. You still there? Are you still there? We should have checked this beforehand. This is live TV. You gotta love it. All right. So, um, this is what me and Catherine talked about before we even got on. Is like anything could happen. So, what I'm gonna do is, Catherine, you there? You're on mute. Can I leave and come back? And you can keep
Hello,
everybody
sorry.
entertained for. Oh no, hold
Yes.
on. It looks like it's working. It's working.
Oh, okay,
Because
perfect.
why not? Because everything is wonky today. It's like a Monday, but this is the beauty of what we do. And this is why you prepare. So, oh, hold on. Now it's only just showing that screen. Yeah, technology working off. Let's see. Window.
So for
Oh, hold
everyone
on.
who's here joining us, whose first BeMore is this? Is this your first time joining us? Second time? Third? Let us know in the chat. And first time? Oh my gosh. Well,
Oh, this is a
welcome.
great way to start off. I enjoy this. This is fantastic.
This happens to everyone, Joe. So
Does happen to everyone.
it happens to everyone. It happens to me. So you're doing great, like Fabio said. So, for everyone who's joining us, where are you joining from? And let us know a little bit about yourselves. I'm going to be posting some kind of like house rules in the chat in just a moment. Turkey, Denver, Spain, San Francisco,
Wow.
Seattle, Greece, Las Vegas, London. We've got like the whole world in one room. That's so cool. Indonesia, Michigan, Houston. That's absolutely amazing. Has anyone been to a recent ADPList meetup in your city? I know we've done one in Raleigh. We've done several in Amsterdam. We have an amazing chapter there. Singapore, Massachusetts. Oh, amazing. Berlin. One in Miami. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, you probably met Lita. She's usually our organizer there. Well, amazing. Sorry, sorry you all are stuck with me, but I can tell you a little bit about what I do at ADPList while we're waiting. I joined the team about a year ago, and I actually started out as a ADPList ambassador hosting BeMore. So this is my third time at BeMore. It's absolutely amazing. I started off as a mentee, like many of you here probably. And I've been really fortunate to join the team last July. So I've celebrated my 1 year anniversary at ADPList now. I'm working closely with Lizzie LaCour, our global head of community. And we're working on some amazing things at ADPList. So I'm really excited, especially to meet again with Joe and meet all of our other organizers.
And it looks like we're back.
We're back.
Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. All right. Thank you so much for everybody for your patience. This is going to be the shit show that we always want it to be, right? Catherine, you should just hang around. Just stay on the screen. Who cares? So I'm going to introduce you guys to me. I'm Joe. I've been a design leader for 20 years. I've been in design for 24 years, graphic design, industrial design, early stage web design. I currently work at a SaaS startup. I built a team there. And overall, I've got the pleasure of building over 7 teams in a lot of different industries. And it's super, super fun to do. And as you can see, even when things go kind of wild, I'm still fucking happy. So whoever stayed along and then just be like, this guy's wholly unorganized. Thanks for staying. And I've always been this happy. And I think that's the beauty. And now the next step of my life is I was able to bring in another happy human into this world. So this is my son Roman. He is just leading in my footsteps of just being loud and screaming and causing a ruckus, much like I do in the design community, which is fun. So I'm also, as Catherine mentioned, the OG ADP list mentor. Once this thing kind of kicked off during the pandemic, I was able to jump in and help out and help people along the way. Since my son was born, I've been on a little bit of a hiatus. So if anybody tried to book and they're on the waiting list, that's the reason why. And I'm getting back to it. But like still to this day, like every time we do this, it's amazing to see these numbers. Like I didn't realize that I actually increased these numbers this much since last time. We're closing in on 27,000 minutes, almost 700 bookings, 33 countries. That's the beauty of this community, right? It's amazing to see people from all over the world join together and talk about design and come to me and be like, hey, crazy person, like, what do you think? So, um, obviously, one of the other things I want to mention, it is Hispanic Heritage Month here. I'm wearing my Nueva York shirt because I'm also a proud Puerto Rican, despite my gray hair and very pale complexion, and Irish. So, wepa. So let's talk about careers, right? One of the things that I love to do is talk about my list of things is baseball, design, myself, and now my son. But my career, much like a lot of designers out there, has been somewhat, I'd say all over the place. And you can see by this chart, there's a lot of ups and downs. And this is what we're all going to see. Look at, by the way, I found this picture of myself, how young I was, how vibrant I was. My skin was like somewhat not wrinkly, and my hair was dark. That's my natural hair color, if anybody's wondering. And the journey has been a lot of fun. It was on that upward trajectory from the start. One of the things that happened early in my career was I had, in a very tight period, moved from a junior designer to a senior designer in a year. And then, much like a lot of design leaders you're going to hear, we've been pushed into leadership out of just circumstance. I was on a team of people and nobody wanted to be in charge after our creative director left. And I was just like, I'll do it. And that kind of led me on a path that was going to always drive me forward. And we're going to talk all about that later. But there's always been things that have been along the way. Early on in my career, we're talking 1999, this is 24 years. There's probably people who are like, be like, oh my God, I wasn't born yet. I learned to code early. And that's mainly because of out of necessity. Web became a big part of a brand, a big part of a company, and we had to kind of build with it, right? And understanding, and this still goes to today. If you're in product, understand how code works. You don't have to be a coder. I'm never going to say that, but understand how it works because when you understand the how, it makes you so much of a better designer and helps you push. Today I had a meeting before we did this about feasibility in a component and I wanted to push it and I wanted to push it. And they said, like, hey, yeah, we could easily do that. Then shit happens. The company I worked for, this is 2008, 2009-ish, the market collapsed, the whole housing market fell apart. Company I worked for went out of business and I was laid off. I spent that year really freelancing and trying to find a job. And at the time, nobody was hiring in creative. It wasn't a space where people sat and they were like, oh my God, this is where we need to spend our money. They were doing like kind of what's now is that they're spending very strategically. Then after that happened, I started a design agency. Everything was going really well. That's where that C-suite came in. I felt really great. We were empowering our customers and we were driving out a team of people working across graphic design and web design. And we lost our 3 biggest clients. They went out of business post collapse of the markets and stuff. Not great, not great. But then I found out about UX. And I was like, holy shit, I've been doing this since the beginning. I've been trying to figure out what the engineers were doing and what the users were wanting and what the focus should be and how we're going to do it. So then I officially pivoted into UX. Not very easy because even with right now all of this experience you see, people are saying, well, you don't have enough experience in UX. I've been building websites since 2001. I've been going through the motions of how do we build and how do we build smart. And guess what? It was now an upward climb again. Very humbling, but great because it set me on a career where I got the ability to understand more. And then I was working for a company, it wasn't working out. The CEO and I did not see eye to eye, and I quit my job. I will always say, if you quit, quit like, standing tall. I did not. I was like, you know what? I've had it. I'm done. I'm out. Luckily for me, there was opportunity that kind of just found itself into me. And it was this ability to be a little consulty, be a little dynamic in where I was going to go. And my next step was moving into like an ad agency world again, working for an amazing team with Havas, New York, and people that I love so much that I still talk to constantly. And amongst the pandemic and working there, I started another company because that's what we do as creatives. We have this vision, we have this idea. If you have something, go after it, right? And guess what? That company did not do well either. And that leads us to where I'm working now. We went to a company reorg, which means my position shifted a little, which was different. I still have a job, which is good, but my goals are not the same, right? And this is where, when you look at your overall career, when you look at where you are now, like don't ever get discouraged, don't ever get in your head about what's going to happen because this shit happens to all of us, right? Like there's so much that goes on, there's so much that changes, there's so much that grows, there's so much uh, that has happened that influences each other. Like being a design lead so early in my career was great. I was not qualified for it by any stretch of the imagination. I will not even lie to you people. I sat there and I was like, what the hell am I going to do next? Like I was buying books and reading and finding mentors back then that were giving the ability to, help me along the way because at that point, like ADPList didn't exist. I had to like really go out and search for people and be like, hey, I'm struggling in my career. Can you help me? I got a ton of no's. That's where like the job market thing where everybody's like, I'm getting no's, I'm getting no's. That's part of the job. Like it doesn't matter where aspect of it, there's going to be a no. And it's where you really go from there. And throughout all this, I've been a freelancer. I cannot stress enough. Freelance is the best thing we have in our careers. You can make side money. You can, build your portfolio. You can grow. You can practice skills. You can go into industries that you don't get to go into. Like now, I'm a full-time product designer. I work in applications. I build tools for people. I don't get to do branding. So my freelance jobs now, my last 3 freelance projects were doing full brand overhauls for people. And that makes me so happy. I love fucking doing it. Right? Like it's cool because you get to create somebody's like, their identity. And it's such a fun thing. And plus you get paid and you can charge like, pretty well for it. So I will always say be a freelancer. Oh, and apparently I forgot I put these out of order and I closed my agency. Um, so what about you? And it's okay not to know. I think that's the biggest thing. You know, as we look at your career and where you are now, it could always change. Always keep options open. There's always a path for growth no matter what. So I did a little research, and this is a little scary. I looked at like titles in our creative realm. There's a few, just a couple, like handful, and then there's new stuff. New stuff pops up, you know, chatbot designer, AI stuff, taking our already existing terminology and just adding AI onto it. I didn't even know an AI creative director was a thing. Apparently it is. And Google hires for it. So I think that's the thing, right? Like when you look at this insane list, and this isn't even all of them because I'm still feeling like I could find more of them and more titles. I don't even have in here companies like mine that go product designer 1, product designer 2, product designer 3, which makes me feel like we're extras in a movie versus like levels in a organization. This is where we have this ability to really chart our course, right? You can look at this and say, here's my goal, here's what I want to do, here's what I need to do to get there, and how. I think that's the biggest thing. And this shit is very overwhelming. I remember back when my career started, I knew I was going to be, actually, I knew I was going to be a fine artist. I was going to be an illustrator. All the shit behind you tells you that I'm a creative person, right? I wanted to work for Marvel. I wanted to work for DC. I went to college to really focus on illustration, met the dean, and he goes, "You're a graphic designer." I had no idea what that was. I didn't even have a computer at that time. Yeah, I know. Everybody has computers now, but back then we couldn't afford one. He told me my ability to talk about my work, my ability to pitch, my ability to create design, because I also, in my portfolio, had 3 ads hand drawn. Wild. Because I was there the whole time. Set me on this path, right? Like my expectation of where I was and my expectation of where I was going split. And then the web showed up, split again. Then I'm leadership, split again. So I think that's the thing. Don't get too much in your head about where you are. It's all about building plans. So again, we're going into this big list. We have trying to figure out who we are and what we're doing, and you have to pick your discipline. We have. Let's find out. Catherine, could you pop in that poll, finding out what people want to do? Um, and it's still a wide variety. All of those titles still title into a big group, right? Do you want to be a graphic designer? Do you want to do UX? Do you want to do research? Do you want to do visual design? Do you want to do motion work? Do you want to just be product design? Are you interested in voice and AI? These things are also where you can start your path and then also continue to grow, right? I've done pretty much all of these things. I mean, to the fact I was using After Effects last night. I was working on a conversational AI bot 2 weeks ago. I don't want you to think that you have to focus on one, but it's always good to have something to kind of be your anchor, right? And I think that's a great way to really drive who you are. Ooh, hide that poll. So now we're on this journey. We are picking our discipline. We know where we're going. We know what we want to do. Content design, absolutely so important. I can't believe I forgot about that. I apologize to all my content designers out there, service designers, whole other area too. It's really charting your course, right? Do you want to be an IC, individual contributor? Do you want to be a manager? Do you want to manage people? Do you want to be that consultant, that person who lives and breathes the idea of working by themselves and working with clients, and everything changes? You know, in the IC role, you get to really focus on being a designer. You get to focus on still the process of what you do, how you do it, being in Figma, and still being able to give back, right? And mentor and lead like that area of a team, that principal role, right? And I think that's such a wonderful space because back then, when I started, the only role was to manager. There was no IC role. There was a stop. If you wanted to be an IC, you would be a senior forever. You would never be able to go back up. Then they started calling them like production designers, which sounded like, a whole different realm. For me, I knew from the beginning, it's always been part of my personality, being a manager. I love working with people. I love that influence. I love being able to help people along the way. I love being able to think of budgets. Why? I don't know why. And timelines and process and all the things that come along with it. Like that speaks to me. It's always spoke to me. Even when I played sports as a kid, I was always that person who was just like, let's all go, let's do this, let's go together, let's drive. It's like that's just who I am. But that not be might not be who you are. And then, like I said before, I've always been a consultant. I will always take extra money because I think it's great. I think it's fun. I think it's also great to just create things and have that flexibility of what I work on. And I could say no to things. I could say yes to things. I could be excited. I can push the boundaries of what a company wants, and so can you. And I think that's where you think that if you're early in your career, you can't be a freelancer. That's 100% wrong. There's no blueprint to where this all starts and where it goes. And I think that's where you always have to then start your plan, right? As you can tell, I'm a planner. I like it. I think it's great. You look at where you are, you start building your milestones, you start looking at where your goal is. This is the happy path, right? Like, look, you have marginal jumps in between. You're a junior, you get a little more experience, you become a mid-level, a little more experience, move up, get your like couple years at a company, get your kind of raises. But what does this mean? What are your milestones, right? Your milestones should be set deep within your mind, inside your growth mindset. You're a junior, you're learning a company, you're learning what you're doing. You're learning the ins and outs of the team, the ins and outs of the product, ins and outs of the company. That next step is taking ownership for yourself, taking ownership of your work, and being the person that really drives it. Then what happens after that? Then you're starting to take the lead in your team. Then you're starting to be that area of influence with your younger designers that are with you. Building your back, putting all these items in your backpack, all these skills that you're taking along with you. You start off as a junior in Figma. Where you are down the line, your skills will be astronomical, right? I kind of joked around with one of my junior designers yesterday. I said, I could do this, or you could do this. I'm like, just so you know, it's not going to take the same amount of time. So we should let the product people know, like, if I'm taking this over, I'm going to bang through it real quick. You need a little more time. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's just skill set, right? Like, I'm only speaking key commands versus like knowing where things in a menu, which has just always become very entertaining for me because I'm just like, the, and people are just like, oh, where is it in the menu? I don't know. I don't know where it is. But then as you continue to grow, it's always building these skills and driving yourself forward, being a leader, being a mentor, being an area of influence, thinking strategically. And to be fair, these are all things you're going to pick up and you're going to have to learn and you're going to have to read and test out. And much like how we build our products, test and learn is the key, right? It's about trying something out. It may work, it may not work. Fun, quick story. I went for a job amongst all of that ups and downs. I had a job at a company. I was replacing a creative director. I was going to be their vision for the future, you know, digital, print, the whole nine. I went with the mindset that I have of how we execute the strategy behind it, did the research, understood everything, and I approached them with it. And my first week there, I went through my vision of the future, and they were like, no. And I'm like, no, it's not a yes or no thing. This is where you guys need to go. This is why you brought me in. It's not where we want to be. Okay, play around with it, change it around, hit it again. This is all stuff that based off of experience and what I've seen work, what I've seen not work, what I've heard from other leaders, what I've seen from other people. No, I don't think this is gonna work. 2 weeks. It's not on my resume because guess what? It wasn't even a real job. It was basically a consultancy where I went to a company and gave them a path for success, and they said no. That sucks, right? But that's the thing. Years ago, I used to play a persona when I would go to interview. I would be accent would be toned down. I would speak very, very clearly and very, very slowly. Um, Full suit, you know, looking like an insurance salesman when I go in there. No offense to insurance salesman. Uh, that's not me. This is me. This is me who I've always been. And I got this job and I thought it was great and they loved me and I loved them and everything was awesome. And then we start the job. My first month there, HR calls me in. Joe, you know, we realized like your personality is very aggressive. It wasn't like that, like in the interview. We just didn't know where it comes from. And I was like, yeah, because that's an interview persona. Did you guys not know that? Do you think everybody who interviews is the person who they are? That was the crux of a moment where I basically said, I'm never ever going to interview without being myself because I don't want people to be surprised. I don't want people to be confused. I want people to know you're going to get somebody who is going to come in, be loud, have fun, be energetic, curse a fuck ton because that's just who I am. I'm gonna wear baseball hats. I'm gonna wear t-shirts. I'm gonna wear jeans. I'll dress up when when there's clients there, right? Of course, because gotta look somewhat clean. I'll do my hair right now. Like I work from home, so when I have to go in the office, I'll put on pants. It's cool, but that's the thing, right? You being authentically yourself throughout this entire journey. I told my designers, especially when I was working in enterprise, they used to be like, I don't know how you can sit in a meeting and tell a group of like VPs and SVPs to fuck off. And I'm like, well, it's because I'm kind of like, I'm jolly like Santa, it's nobody cares, but that's how I do things. Don't do that. Don't do what I do. Do your version of it. And I think that's where it's empowering people to really always be like who you are. And I think it's great to always engage who you are. I've met some people, some great designers that are super analytical and would say nothing. And then I would do this whole fucking crazy Joe show. And then I'd be like, hey, what do you think? And then they would say this like super insightful, deep, ingrained in analytics, just little monologue. And I would just sit back and I'm just like, yeah, what he said. Because it was just like, that's his delivery. And his delivery was like, it hit me every time. So as I go too off the rails, because as we know so far, the only way to grow is to grow in your work. And I always say it's going to drive you forward. I'm always going to say that it's going to push you forward. There's only one way to go. There's no back. Even if people who career switch that I met through ADP list, they have told me 1,000 times, like, I feel like I'm starting over. You are, but you're not, because there's not a point that this is an ending. This is an evolution. We did this great event at SVA in New York. A lot of architecture students were there pivoting into product design, right? The line between those two jobs are actually there. It's how you frame it. And we're going to go into framing a little bit too. But that's the thing. Don't ever doubt it and think it's like I screwed up and I have to do something new. This is always a push forward. This is always our evolution forward. To be fair, like we all get older, we all learn stuff. Your resume, by the way, I love AI generated images. I think they look ridiculous. I obviously had to clean up some of the text because it's obviously gibberish. It's just fun. It's fun to like write prompts and see what fucking weird shit comes up. Um, but like your resume should always be a two-step process, right? You're gonna write your resume, and this is how we do it. If you're a junior designer and you're looking for another junior role, if you're a mid-level designer looking for a mid-level role, you're going to talk about where you are now, right? You're going to talk about what your job was, what happened, what your goals were as a team, and that's great. The way I always look at how we should be doing this is you got to talk about where you want to be. Even if you are going from a junior role to a junior role or not doing that step up and you're going linear, you have to want to gain more responsibility. You have to want to gain more. This is all the fucking theme of this entire thing is be more, get more, experience more, right? That's where you have to talk about it. That's where you have to write a narrative that is about you moving forward. Your resume it's great that you did work in the past. It's a narrative. What you did before leads you into the next one, leads you into the next one. So it should always be an evolution. Hey, I was a junior designer. I did production work. I attended some meetings, right? In my next role, I was leading meetings. I was owning projects. I was doing this, even if they're both slight steps up in like the title realm, like it's about crafting that narrative. It's about talking about who you are and where you want to be. Because when HR people and hiring managers, when they read these things, which by the way, I put a poll in, do we need resumes? I don't think so. Um, for me, designers are our work is visual, our work is storytelling, our work is so much more than what an 8 by 8.5 by 11 or A4 if you're international is worth. And to be fair, it shouldn't be any type of size constraint anyway. This was all based off the idea that people are printing things out. I don't know anybody that has a printer anymore outside of a 3D printer, which is next to my desk, right? People are reading things digitally. Everything's in Greenhouse or Bamboo or one of these ATS systems, these HR systems. Nobody's printing them out anymore. Don't feel constrained by 8.5 by 11. Be you. Bring your, and again, obviously, this is a whole other resume conversation. I'm sure there's tons of them in here. You need your boring ass resume to beat ATS systems. There's great ATS readers that will rate you and see where you're going. But no matter what, that story has to be forward. You know, talk about your best parts of your current role, right? And I think that's a great place to be from a designer too. And then on top of it, you have your fucking portfolio, which by the way, I'm sure everybody loves building. I'm sure everybody's having such a great time with their portfolio. Um, and it's the same thing, right? Like your portfolio is gonna evolve. Amongst that long journey that I have had in my career, I have rebranded myself 3 times. I have fully redesigned my website 10 times easily. Sometimes minor changes, maybe just color changes, sometimes full UX changes, going with trend. At some point, mine was in Flash for any of the old people out there that remember what Flash is. And every one of them is a step up. Every one of them, the narrative changes. Your junior level portfolio may be, hey, I'm a UX designer looking to make meaningful experiences, to when you're a design executive, to being, I'm here to influence a company to build the best product. So it's always keeping that narrative. If you're trying to move up, that website that they come to has to be for the job you want. They always say dress for the job you want, right? Dress like the job you want. The one time I'm not wearing a UX shirt, by the way, I've got 8 of them, and a couple of engineering shirts just for funsies. But that's the thing. It's always about telling your potential. Talk about your potential. Talk about who you are. That's what sells. Somebody who pushes pixels and builds product is great. What are you gonna bring to the fucking table? What makes you different? Your about page. I always say the about page is my favorite part of a website. I'll read your case studies all day, crack a bottle of wine, go through them. But the about page is you. This is about you. Your life, your likes, your dislikes, your hobbies, your fucking, things you love to do, your travel. I've looked at people's about pages and I'm like, holy God, where is that place? That's beautiful. And then they tell me, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to add it to the list that we're going to travel to. It's such a cool thing to do. Is like is talk about your experience. These case studies are your experience. You know, Even if you're a junior designer and you're still taking orders from seniors, there's got to be a moment within there that you have an idea. Talk about it. Talk about your ideas post mortem. Hey, we did this great thing, got this thing out, website's up, blah blah blah. What would I have done different, or what would I have want to see? Your thought process is so fucking important because it helps us tell what kind of employee you're going to be, what type of person you're going to be. And I think it's that great way of just generating, for starters, just great content based off of your opinions, and I think it's so valuable for a lot of us to kind of enjoy that narrative. And it takes so much for us to kind of sit back and say, this is me. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I believe in. You don't have to agree with the people, with the product people. Trust me. If you're in your career early, you're in your career middle, or you're in that late stage career, we don't agree on everything. There's nothing better than going to an engineer and saying, "Hey, so I like what you did, but here's what it should have looked like," or "Here's what I want to do. What do you all think?" And they'll be like, "Ugh, it's going to take too much time, or it's going to do something." Negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. Like, always be that guiding light. Your job in this realm, in this industry, is to be that North Star. Even if you're a junior, you're working with somebody and you could still push ideas and everybody's experience comes with it. For anybody who's on the younger side, you're growing up in a realm where digital is your everyday experience. My son is going to grow up in a world where he only knows digital. If you don't think that kid's going to learn typography by hand, you got nothing coming. But his entire idea on how to interact, on how to do things is all going to be focused on digital and probably AI. To be fair, I was looking at an AI teddy bear, freaked me the fuck out, but I kind of want it. I want to take it apart. I want to reprogram it. That's a whole other thing. But that's the thing. Like, think about our industry. Think about what you like. There's always those fun fucking uh, interview questions. What's your favorite application? What application inspires you? Ugh, I hate those questions because if you look at my phone, I have a bunch of apps. I really use like 12. You know, and those are my favorite apps. Like, yeah, I'm on Instagram all the time. I'm on TikTok all the time. They're not particularly perfectly designed. They're a great way to spend time and, turn your brain off and maybe see inspiration or, in my case, find new ways to use like Illustrator. But that doesn't mean it's a good product, right? So I think that's always the thing. And I think it's for us in this realm, you're always a hands on member of this community. You're always going to open up a new app. You're always going to see a new experience. You're always going to be a part of something and you're going to be like, ooh, I don't like that. Or, oh my God, I love that. I always check like awards, AWWARDS award site and look at what people build because I'm like, this is cool. Like, this is cool shit. I want to steal that and use it in something I'm working on or be inspired by it. I think that's the beauty of this industry is that we're constantly inspired by each other. I went off the fucking rails. Uh, oh, so looks like I wrapped myself up. Um, Knowing your path, and again, it's not a linear path. You just need to have a path to go off of. We've all been on hikes or walks or somewhere. If you're in New York, you definitely get turned around 1,000 times over. But that path has to start somewhere, and you're on it now. You're here. You started in this industry. You're going your way forward, right? But it's always just knowing where to start. And it's about making a plan. Again, plans always change, but it's always good to kind of have ourselves focused around something. Focused around like what you want to do next. A good manager, oh my God, a good manager will help you on that. And that should be also a huge question you ask when you interview. If you are not going into an interview and asking what your growth plan is, or you're looking for a place that you can evolve and you can learn and you can take chances and build stuff, gauge their experience on that, gauge their response because you want them. You want a leader who will be invested in you. I once had a CEO tell me, Joe, you know what your worst quality is? I rattled off like a laundry list. I'm loud. I curse too much. I don't give a shit. No, he said, you care too much about your designers. A CEO, the man who should be caring about every one of his employees. I said, respectfully, are you fucking kidding me? I'm invested in these people as a leader because if anybody comes to work with me and they don't leave better than when they got here, I'm not doing my job. And leaders now, design leaders, I love that design leaders have this mindset. They have this mindset of what were we like when we started out? What bad bosses did we have that we don't want to emulate? I think it's such a beautiful way of when you interview, you're telling somebody about you, you're learning about them, and then you're interviewing them, right? Remember that. Remember where you want in your next role. For instance, I'm looking for a job. I interview with somebody. I say, here's what I want. I'm on a path to C suite. Is that available here? No? Okay, cool. I don't want to waste my time spending another 2 or 3 years with a company that's not going to push me forward, right? Like, It may be great, maybe a great experience. People might be nice. Who knows? But you have to know that where you want to be, your plan, your growth trajectory is the most important thing. I have taken many jobs, freelance and others, that have been like, oh my God, you're going to build this, you're going to build this, you're going to do this, you're going to be on a path for growth, you're going to drive growth, you're going to do this. And then none of it happened. Where's that clown meme of me putting makeup on my face? But you can't settle in life. We can go into dating, we can go into life. Never settle. I know we need jobs. I know we need money. I know we have bills to pay. I know we need to keep the lights on. The feeling of being at a shitty job with a shitty manager sometimes is not worth the paycheck. Sometimes it is. It depends on what your perspective is. But I think that's the thing. Always value yourself. And then just keep fucking growing. Just fucking grow. Just don't settle for anything. Know what you need to learn. Like again, AI is still new. And I keep trying to find new ways to introduce AI into work, into my personal work, into my freelance work, just fucking around with it, just to get an idea. Because when I am put in the position of having to do something in it, I don't want to stand there and be like, what goes on? What am I supposed to do? Start going to Medium, you know? Same thing with Figma. Like, I'm somebody who loves working in tools and loves designing and loves still doing all this fun shit. I talked to a bunch of designers. Hey, do you use Figma variables? No, I don't know how to use them. There's tons of tutorials out there, tons of great content out there. TikTok, I always find my way into that, and Instagram. Learn it because for starters, it makes your job easier and it's cool, and you get to go do fun shit with it. But also, this is the next step. This is the next tool in your toolbox, right? Understanding variables, understanding that conditional logic helps you understand also engineering. So it has a lot more purpose to it than you would think. And I think it's uh, a great way to always push what you can do. Back in the day when it was Illustrator and Photoshop and InDesign, I'm master at that shit. Data merges in InDesign all day long. Fun vector graphics and Illustrator all day long. Like when people would see the shit that I would do, they'd be like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that." And that I still look at the shit people do in Figma. Some of the illustrations in Figma, I don't think it's real. Seems like a trap. Like I can't fucking do that. Inspiration within this community. Because guess what? I have been fucking around with illustration and Figma. It's going all right. Not as good. It's getting out of your comfort zone. For the career changers that are here, you made the jump. You're out of your comfort zone. For the people who are in college and you're into your next step, right? Out of your comfort zone. Even to this day, I'm interviewing for companies for the last, I'd say 5 years, give or take, well out of my comfort zone. It's like, how do I portray myself the way that I am? How do I portray myself where I want to be? That they'll take me seriously. One thing that I've always had since the beginning, a chip on my shoulder, absolutely. I'm from New York. We always have chips on our shoulder. From when I was that junior that got moved into that management level, no one took me seriously. They called me kiddo, junior, scout at one point. Thought that was a weird one. Made me feel like shit, right? But guess what? I'm gonna fucking show you. That's what this career is about. That's what everything you're doing here, everything you're gonna learn, everything you're gonna put into practice. Fucking show them. Let them know that you're here. There's thousands of people attending this conference. We all know that the jobs are scarce, right? There's not enough. But guess what? It's all trending. We're going into that September area. People coming off the September surge. This is great. Um, just show them who you are. I think that's the most important thing. I love closing every one of these things out with the idea that um, these quotes from these great designers. And I came across this one. I think it's very fucking accurate. It's through mistakes that we actually can grow. You have to get bad in order to get good, right? Like we will learn, we will push ourselves, we will try shit out. It may not work. We'll try shit out. It may work. Even interviewing, every interview you go on is training for the next one, training for the next one. You may get feedback or not. Let's be serious, not always getting feedback. Whatever they say, put it into practice. You're going to meet with a fuck ton of mentors on ADP list. Remember, everybody's going to have their own opinion. Everybody has their own view of things. Take what you will. Take what you think is accurate for you. Take what you think is going to drive you. Take what you think is going to be best for you. And remember, if it doesn't work, it's okay. Anybody who knows me knows I have a rule on my computer in my Apple Mail that has the phrase, "We regret to inform you. If found, write to trash." I don't need that shit. You don't need that shit. But always keep pushing forward. That's the biggest fucking thing, right? And it helps you know who you are. You're going to evolve. You're going to change. Life is going to change. Tech is going to change. You know, you have to change with it. We have to change together. We're a community. You can come to us and say, like, hey, I'm having struggles here. What do you think could help me? Right? I think that's the beauty of it all. I'm going to unshare my screen for a hot minute so you guys can look at my beautiful face for a while. Catherine, I'm sure we got some questions out the ass, right?
We have so many questions, Joe, and I know you haven't been paying attention to the chat because you've been presenting, but I know you're going to appreciate this comment from Dave. Dave said that Joe is the colleague every IC wants and manager fears.
100%. Yeah.
That was
By the
hilarious.
way, I don't always make a lot of friends where I am, because here's the thing: when it comes to work, people don't have to like you, but they have to respect you. And I think it's the beauty. I will have no problem telling somebody right out the gate, "This is fucking ridiculous," respectfully. But
And that's important. Yeah.
yeah, we have to, and that's the thing. Even with my favorite thing about ICs is when I work with them, the fucking ideas that churn are like nonstop. It's great. And I get to learn. I still get to learn tons, by the way. I hope you guys don't think that I'm like not learning anything throughout these years. Still to this day, I'm learning from engineers, I'm learning from designers, I'm learning from, you know, Miggy from Figgy and all the other fucking people out there. Uh, so I'm going to go with the top question. Based on your experience, what skills and traits you have found moving from IC? Oh, you can do this? Holy shit! I didn't know this was a thing. This is awesome. Thanks, Catherine. Skills and traits to moving from IC to a leadership position. So this is actually really funny because I'm working on this now. So moving from that IC level to a leadership position, it involves that level of strategy, right? It's involving that level of communication. It's involving that level of bigger thinking that'll help lead your way. For me, it's like that next step. So it's like I've heard people tell me that I'm not strategic enough. My initiatives are not strategic enough. So then I had to like Google it. What does that mean? But that's the thing, right? So it's like if you're an IC and you're kicking fucking ass at it, right? And everybody knows who you are and everybody knows what you're doing. You have to start framing yourself in that way that, it's that communication. It's being that person. So then the IC role, this is where it's gotten really cool because I worked at IBM for a while. And I was a senior designer. I'm using air quotes because their titles were all over the place. They call me a visual designer sometimes, a UX designer. Nobody knew what I was doing. Uh, but eventually I was an IC and eventually they saw me as a leader. And it's because I was standing up in meetings and pushing best practices and I was being that point of contact. It's the idea of like not being the loudest person in the room, but being the most insightful person in the room because I'm always the loudest person in the room. Uh, get to do both. But I think that's the thing, right? And it's like finding those ways that you can really drive into that leadership role. There's tons of great leadership books. I can go through the entire library here, which is anally organized in color order. Making a manager is fantastic. what are the books? Radical Candor is fantastic. All these books that help you really put yourself in that position because it's all about like framing yourself in the way that you need to frame yourself. And I think the more you do it, it also becomes more less effort when it's also people when you start talking. And also another thing is, if you're in a company you're trying to move into leadership, talk to your manager about it. Hopefully, they'll advocate for you. Because I've worked with designers who, they would slack me. Joe, what if we did this? And I'd be in a meeting gesturing wildly, and I'm like, yo, you fucking tell them. Like, I don't need to be your mouthpiece. You have a mouth. Like, you fucking go for it. Like, don't think you need to run by things. And they would, and it helped that method of leadership kind of build into them. Um, yeah, that's my short version of it. I'm sure everybody realized I'm very short-winded. Next up, we got what's the best way to articulate your skills and experiences to align with the requirements in the design industry? Oh, tough one. It's tough because everybody speaks their own language, right? We all speak a global language, but then when you're trying to get a job and you read job descriptions, which are bullshit, by the way, they're generated by people who don't always fucking know what a job is. They're just cutting and pasting. Got a fun conversation about that too. It's you frame you write your story in the way that hits the requirements that you want to hit, right? Like, and I'm not going to tell you rewrite your resume for every job you go after. That's what they made AI for anyway. But you can't, right? So when you tell the story of your job, when you tell the case study, or you're talking the narrative of your work, you could be buzzword heavy and use every one of those soulish words, initiatives, benchmarks. Yeah, the HR people can be like, oh my God, they use the words, but they mean nothing really, right? Um, uplift. I'll use one back. Circle back. But that's the thing. It's like you have to write your story based off of what happened. Still keep the terminology of what goes on. There are industry standards, you talk about like the high level stuff when it comes to process and initiatives and sprints and everything like that. For me, a compelling story doesn't get bogged down in technical information. And that's for me. Again, this is just one man's opinion, one very, very loud, obnoxious man's opinion. But you talk through what happened, how you did things, what you're using. One of the things I don't see enough is when people talk about their work in Figma. Like, what did you do? By the way, fun fact: if you ever put a Figma link in your portfolio and it leads to the working side of not the presentation side, and I get to see how fucking jacked up your layers are, you're not getting the job. Name them, keep them organized, use sections just for yourself, let alone anybody else. But yeah, I think it's just for me, it's always telling the story in a way that makes sense to somebody else. The best way you should always resend it out to somebody, send it out to another designer, and make sure that they're not looking at it being like, oh, this is like gibberish. Like, what is this? Like, you're not speaking our language. I constantly talk to when I work with like big financial companies, especially going back to that content design, so important, but gets bogged down by legal. They're not speaking to their customer. They're not speaking to a person trying to get a credit card. They're speaking to themselves. What's on a fucking deck? I've read through some of the content on a marketing style website, and I'm like, is this to the cute person in the cubicle next to them? Because there's acronyms in here. There's no acronyms in real life except for fucking LOL and LMAO and FML. But that's the thing, right? Like, that's you have to speak to the way you speak to like your friends that are in the design industry, which is a little less now. What do we got next? Biggest challenges early in career entering this space and how to overcome that barrier. For me, it's always standing up for myself. 200%. I had such a big problem with my self-worth as a designer. That's partially because of shitty bosses, but it's also myself. It is knowing my own worth and who I'm going to be and how I'm going to drive forward. I think I always felt like, again, I said chip on the shoulder. I'll fucking show you what's going to happen. But it's like that self-doubt. We always talk about imposter syndrome. There's 2,000 articles and 2,000 videos. There's probably like 5 BeMores about it, right? Like there's imposter syndrome is so real. It never stops. It happens to everyone. It's scary and fucked up, right? Stupid feeling. It's a stupid feeling because there's no reason you should not feel that your worth is anything less than what you are, right? And especially when you're in a designer, when you're in a career, when you're trying to get a promotion and you don't get it, like you have to have an honest conversation with the company and being like, am I going anywhere here? Or you're just gonna milton me from office space, like just move me around until everybody forgets that I work here, right? Like you need to have a path and you need to stand up for it. Like when you see a salary that isn't good, fucking say no. You're worth more. Again, the last thing you want to do is say like, "Oh my god, I'm not getting paid enough for this." Horrible, horrible feeling. So yeah, that's that one. What's next? Company culture. Company culture. Great, great question. It's interview your interviewer. Ask about company culture. Ask about creative culture too. That's another big thing that I care about a lot. Creative culture. Do they care about UX? Do they care about design? You can go back to that other one because I was going to answer that one next. Bring full personality to the workplace while remaining professional. Yeah, I'm professional adjacent. I think that's the thing, is you can still be yourself. You can still say, you have to say the right things. Like, yeah, I curse a lot. I tell a lot of people to fuck off. It's been 20 years, right? Like I'm worn out. But throughout my career, it's always been like wrapped in this deep insight that we know. And I think that's the part where you can kind of joke around and make jokes and have fun and be yourself, as long as the information that you're delivering comes from that deep backpack of information. You know, use references from other jobs, use references from what you read. Hey, I just saw this. Our Slack channel at work, I am constantly dropping in articles because I'm reading them and I want other people to know. Hey, I saw some insights that this is happening. I saw this is happening. This is going on. This is the future. This is where we're driving to. Hey, guess what? AI isn't for everyone. Just because you hear it, CEO, doesn't mean it needs to be shoved into a company. Except Felix, I like that fucking AI thing that they came up with. I can't wait to use it. Um, let's see what else we got. Ba, 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 ba. Oh. So I wrote a great article, shameless plug, about how we can move past resumes. Um, for me, it's a two part ask. Recruiters have to be better educated on design. I can't have the person who's hiring a software engineer or hiring a designer and an accountant and marketing. They don't work. As a design leader, I sit down with my recruiters, have a full conversation. Hey guys, here's what I want to do. Here's what you're looking for. Here's the profile. Here's a portfolio that looks really good. Here's a resume that looks really good. We have to be the advocates for it, and we have to educate those recruiters on how and what talent looks like, what success looks like. And then the other part of it is I need ATS systems to either get better or just get out. Like if you're hiring for a designer, the job should be name, email, phone number so we can contact you, portfolio link. That's it. All the other stuff, if you need DEI stuff and like, do you need sponsorship? Obviously, because that's a big one. That's it. You should be judged by your work always. And that's something that the soapbox I will stand on forever and will yell at the top of my lungs because I fucking hate it. I hate having to look at resumes. I think it's stupid. By the way, I'll just bypass them and go click on the link, go right into the website and call it a day. We're at time.
Yes, we are. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Joe. In the chat, Felix was saying several times, like, let Joe cook, because you're just speaking facts. And everyone really appreciated your authenticity today in your presentation and who you are. And so, really, just thank you so much for being here. not only at the Be More, but at ADP List. We really appreciate you. Everyone, go check out the schedule for the next sessions and
Hell yeah.
check out the networking area too.
Learn all the fucking things. Be part of this community. It is important, and we fucking love you for it. Catherine.
Of, of course. Bye, everyone. Join the next session. See ya.